Hello everyone, my name is AP the Weird One and welcome back to more Digimon Liberator. Man, I've been having a rough recording session. I made a whole bunch of progress in Digimon Time Stranger, and now I basically have to redo a whole bunch of it. It's not like the biggest setback, but I put a lot of things on normal. It was fucking disaster. I had a big recording that was failed, and but I got to redo some stuff, and so I can move ahead a little bit, so it should be all good, hunky dory. Anyway, I forget what we're gonna be doing. There was something I was gonna show. Yes, my little baby boy. I think. In terms of novel, we are doing Debug 20, which I think is going to be oh, okay. Which I think is going to be we're going to be looking at probably Suzune, I'm guessing. But I wanted to show one thing. I was working on like what if I was a member of Damas? You know, we have 6 Digimon partners, whatever. I started working that shtick. My main partner would be Ghostmon, and then he would do all the kit and caboodle with armors. He would be Bakimon, he could do Ponchomon, then Soulmon, and of course Phantomon, Metal Phantomon. He'd go all the way. And then for the other team, I had, because he's Data, 2 Kaimon to becoming a Funnymon Fallen mode, would be the vaccine, so to speak, and then Solomon Orange becoming Razielmon would be kind of like the virus, so to speak, and even though it's unknown. And then for the backup team, we would have Tapirmon doing the X antibody line to Skull Mammothmon, then Floramon becoming Griffomon because I love Griffomon. The one that I'm virus, like, this isn't a bad, but I've discussed in the past, but Tutumon or Chuchumon becoming Dijangmon, that's sort of my sick. These are the backup members. I think the main team might stay the same. I don't know. But like I was thinking, if I'm a member of Adonis, maybe we'll do this. I lost so much progress in Digimon Liberator. Not Digimon Time Stranger. Oh, it was nightmare. I got to do some card game battles. Oh. It's going to be a freaking disaster. I'm going to be... Actually, the one positive of redoing is that I will be able to, because I gave a talent booster to my Magna Angemon or Colonel, and then I decided, because my Grappleomon wasn't all the way, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to redo you and give you some talent things. And then same thing with a Vademon I had. I decided to do that. We'll wait one more minute. I'm pretty certain this is going to be discussed in Suzune. It's going to be a bit of a slow chapter for the rest of Digimon Liberator. We'll see. I really need to work on Full Metal Panic. I need to get it done by video by Friday, so the novel, I'll work on it tomorrow. I'll take a break from Liberator on Time Stranger. I think this is supposed... Oh, I've got one more thing to come out, I think. I gotta upload something and it should be good. Yeah, okay. Reason, okay. And of course I was predicting that. Let's see we'll do some other stuff. The Northern Age of Cross Connexia. Suzune Kazuki stood amidst the mountain drapes in tiled snow, their peaks stretching endless into the horizon. Lacuna had no regions designed to mimic frigid climates, and so the sharp, skin-biting cold felt strangely refreshing to her. Anyone else might have found it unbearable, but this was someone who spent their days battling alongside Ice Snow Digimon. Right now, it's not the weather, but the stares from around her that feel cold and biting. Suzune sighed. She and her partner Frigimon stood in the center of a large hall within a building like Western Mansion. Countless Digimon had gathered around, maintaining a cautious distance yet intensely observing their every move. Having narrowly escaped Mistymon's forces, Suzume and Frigimon fled northward, evading the pursuers until they reached their mountainous region. When first confronted by the imposing peaks, it crossed Suzume's mind that turning back might be wisest. However, she concluded that no one else could scope out this harsh region as well as her, and resolutely pressed onward. After a grueling march through a blizzard so fierce it obscured even her next step, the pair discovered a secluded village nestled among the mountain ridges. They might have been able to gather information about Cool Boy's whereabouts. They knock on the gate built into the village's walls. Soon enough, they found themselves surrounded by Icemon guards, who escorted them to their grand mansion, seemingly the local lords. And now Suzume and Frigimon were being wary, curiously watched by the village's Digimon residents. I'm curious if Hexablaumon might make appearance. The villagers appeared to be primarily beast Digimon. Among them were entraining Digimon like Wanyamon and Yuki Bodamon, which looked frail and disheveled. They were trembled while gazing at Suzume with a mix of fear and fascination. Frigimon, stepping protectively forward with its large frame to shield Suzume from the uncomfortable stares, gently lowered its gaze. "Are you all right, Suzume?" "Yes, it is certainly uncomfortable, but at least I have you with me, and I'm looking forward to speaking with the lord of this place. What if they're like Mistymon, though? If that were the case, we'd have been taken much more forcefully. Despite their suspicion, we're still being treated as guests." The Digimon here seemed more curious than hostile, too. "Sure, but they do have to stare. But do they have to stare so much?" Just as Frigimon made the disgruntled comment, the door at the far end of the hall swung open, and heavy footsteps reverberated through the chilling air. "What do you think you're doing, gawking like that at our guests? Where are your manners?" Standing tall with a muscular build and a thick, gleaming silver mane was an ultimate form Digimon resembling Leomon and Pajaemon. At its deep, resonant voice, the murmuring among the villagers abruptly ceased, and they timidly shuffled out of the hall. When Susan and Frigimon were the only ones left, Pajaemon bowed before them. "My apologies for their behavior," Pajaemon said. "They were unnerved because they've never seen a human before." "I completely understand, Pajaemon. Thank you for your hospitality," Suzume replied, bowing politely. Pajaemon took a seat slowly, looking Suzume directly in the eye. "Now then, my guests, I'd like to know what your business you have here." "I believe I understand the situation," Pajaemon said, smoothing down its mane with one large paw, quietly repeating Suzume's explanation to itself. "So you came here searching for your comrade who is trapped within the West world." "Yes," Suzume confirmed, "and now he must also rescue a friend captured by Mistymon's forces." "Mistymon?" Pajaemon's lips curled into a displeased grimace. "Mistymon acts like a valiant Digimon, but it's merely a crafty coward. I imagine that your captured comrade still lives." "You know Mistymon, then, you?" "I'm sorry, but there is nothing more I can tell you. You must leave." Frigimon let out a startled cry at Pajaemon's unexpected words. "What? But you were acting like you were going to be upfront with us," said Frigimon. "My apologies. If you are conflicted with Mistymon, then you shouldn't remain here." "Are you allied with Mistymon too?" Susan asked. "Certainly not, but..." Pajaemon abruptly fell silent, its eyes shifting toward a nearby window that filtered in the bright winter sunlight. Suzume followed its gaze and noticed the village Digimon, the ones who had been fixated on her moments ago, were now carrying around what looked like wooden crates. "What are those?" asked Suzume. Offerings for Dalphomon," said Pajaemon. "The Guardians will soon be here to collect them." "Dalphomon?" Suzume was piqued by the mention of that name again, the same one Mistymon had mentioned before. "What's going on here exactly? Is Dalphomon some kind of deity to you?" Pajaemon didn't respond. "Please, Pajaemon, tell me. To me, Dalphomon is simply an entity that exists since the very beginning of this world, the beginning of cross-connexia." Pajaemon nodded bitterly in response to Suzume's puzzled expression. "Exactly. Perhaps some might call it a god. I don't know. The Guardians certainly believe so. They enforce offerings to Dalphomon from every territory within their reach. And what does Dalphomon provide in return for those offerings? Nothing at all. In fact, these forced tributes didn't even exist in the past. Mistymon started the practice. Frankly, I doubt whether these resources are actually reaching Dalphomon. Susanne glazed once again out the window. The village buried in snow appeared bleak. Judging by the harsh surroundings and the ragged state the Digimon she'd seen earlier were in, it seemed unlikely that this village possessed any real abundance of resources. Their lives were probably very modest. Isn't there any way to refuse? Asked Frigimon. Pajamon shook its head. The Guardians vastly outnumber us. If they ever felt inclined, they could crush us in an instant. That's started, Frigimon. You understand now, said Pajamon. If the Guardians suspect we've been harboring humans, it'll be a very, very difficult situation for us. So please leave immediately. But then, maybe we could. Frigimon had about to suggest fighting the Guardians itself, but Susanne cut him. I understand. We'll leave. I'm sorry for troubling. Wait, Susanne. It's fine. Come on, Frigimon. Let's go. Quieting Frigimon's lingering objections, Susanne bowed politely once again. Thank you for your generosity, Pajamon. Despite how difficult your position is, use the back gate on your way out. Please avoid crossing paths with the Guardians, and you are near this village. Thank you, then, for everything. Susanne spoke calmly, then turned on her heel and exited the mansion. Frigimon, still clearly dissatisfied, nonetheless gave a quick bow to Pajamon before hastily following after her. All right, that should do it, said Polar Bearmon. Thank you, Polar Bearmon, said Susanne. Heh, no problem. Stuff like this is my specialty. On a snow-covered peak some distance from Pajamon's village, Susanne peeked her head out from the mountain of freshly packed snow. The temporary shelter for the night, a sturdy igloo created by Polar Bearmon, Frigimon's ultimate form, turned out to be cozier than she had expected. Settling inside snugly, she felt the fatigue of the day's march seeped from her body. The fierce blizzard had finally passed, leaving behind a crisp gray sky. Looking down from their spot among the majestic mountains, Susanne spotted Pajamon's village far below. A caravan-like procession had stopped before the gates, no doubt the Guardians arriving to collect their offerings. Noticing her gaze, Polar Bear leaned in, peering curiosity at Susanne's expressions. Susanne, why do you stop me back there? What do you mean? Oh, come on, you know exactly what I mean. Taking out a few Guardians in my megaform would be a piece of cake. Even so, we couldn't. Susanne sighed. Just as Pajamon and his villagers had their own way of living, the Guardians have theirs. Both groups have an equal right to exist here. As outsiders, we have no business favoring one side over the other. I get what you're saying, but still. Besides, our primary mission is to help Lacuna. To put it bluntly, solving their internal conflicts isn't our job. Polar Bearmon settled down beside Susanne with a disadded huff. More than her reasoning, it disliked the fact that she was deliberately acting so coldly about the situation. Susanne, I told you before, don't keep everything bottled up inside. I'm not bottling up anything up. I'm fine. Nope, you're definitely not. You've had that gloomy look on your face ever since we entered this world. Of course I have. My husband and I could both lose our livelihoods. I know that, but that's not what I mean. Polar Bearmon paused, gazing steadily at Susanne with its round eyes. You can't help but keep worrying about things beyond your control, Susanne, especially when it comes to Unchained. You're right, I know. No, you don't. You keep acting like you could have done something, like you could have changed how things turned out. This struck close to home, leaving Susanne at a loss for words. She suspected Unchained's true motives from some time, but as she was only a debugger and not GM, her options were limited. She tried subtly warning those around her, even maneuvering quietly behind the scenes to introduce elements that Unchained couldn't control. But in the end, Unchained schemes had been in place long before Susanne joined the team, and so beyond her influence from the very start. Yet no matter how much logic told her otherwise, she couldn't shake the lingering feeling that maybe there had been something more she could have done. Even now, Susanne couldn't help but wonder, just how far did Unchained's plan extend? Had Unchained orchestrated everything from the invasion of the Emperor Dragon of Calamity to the awakening of Shoto Kazama's mysterious override power? And what about Cool Boy? According to Yao Qing Lang, she anticipated Unchained's movements and had been responding strategically, and that strategy had led to the debugging team coming to cross Connexia. But if that were the case, why hadn't she acted sooner to stop things before they spiraled out of control? Perhaps there was something even more dreadful yet to come, something bad enough that it justified undergoing this current predicament. Besides that, there was the question of how anyone could be certain that Cool Boy had truly managed to outmaneuver Unchained. "I'm all right, really," said Suzune, giving Polar Bearmon a gentle smile. In truth, the thought that she and the others might merely be pawns in the game between two extraordinary minds, Cool Boy and Unchained, filled her with a quiet, deep-seated melancholy. Still, task laid piled high before her, urgent and impossible to ignore. Right now, all she could do was fulfill her role perfectly, even if that role was only that of a pawn on the board. And on that note, she realized there was no way off track. Altea's abduction was a serious blow. It meant they now had to search and rescue missions on their plate. Knowing Altea's abilities, it was quite possible that they were already making progress wherever they had been taken. Even so, when it pushed come to shove, Suzune knew she would have to be the one to decide whether to withdraw from this world without him. It had to be her, given that she had been the one to hold Ryotaro and the others back when they wanted to rush in danger to rescue Altea. She couldn't leave such a harsh choice to the kind-hearted Yuki or Winner. They shouldn't have to bear that burden. Suzune unconsciously rubbed her hands together against the pervasive cold. No matter how often she reassured herself that she had made the right decision, it never made her heart any lighter. An explosion shattered the quiet, jolting Suzune's attention back to reality. Instantly, Polar Bearmon lunged forward, shielding Suzune. "What was that?" she exclaimed. "It's okay, it wasn't aimed at us, but look." Polar Bearmon pointed towards Pajamon's village. Smoke was rising from several buildings, and the previous peaceful winter atmosphere reverberated with the fierce roars of beasts. "They're fighting the Guardians? Why?" "I doubt it because they found out about us." "Suzune, we have to go help Pajamon." Even as Polar Bearmon became agitated, Suzune was composed. "No, we won't. Come on, are you seriously still being this stubborn? I told you already, this conflict is theirs alone. We have no right to decide who's right or wrong. Instead, once the fighting ends, we'll follow the Guardians. They might lead us directly to their base." Polar Bearmon had no retort. "If you disagree, you're free to go on your own. I have no right to stop you either." Suzune and Polar Bearmon stared at each other silently for a tense moment. Finally, Polar Bearmon sighed and dropped down beside her resignation. "You're really not going?" asked Suzune. "Nope, because," said Polar Bear, cheeks puffed as it stared towards the village, "then I wouldn't be there when you finally decide to fight." Suzune quietly, "Stuff like rights and duties, I don't get all that, but when you feel your gut that you absolutely need to act, Suzune, it's fine to throw the complicated reasons away. Because if I don't, you'll regret it forever." Suzune lowered her eyes at Polar Bearmon's words. Their circumstances, their duty to save Lacuna, the face of the Digimon from earlier, everything swirled through her mind. She thought and thought and thought, then finally opened her eyes and resolved. Alright, so that was kind of a nice chapter. We learned a little bit more about Suzune, kind of expected. But the real question is there any more new Digimon from Digimon Time Stranger? No. I'm wondering when those Digimon are going to get added. Alright, let me look on X. Alright, so the next one is Comic Part 19 Part 1, scheduled for release on October 16th. Hopefully you have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys next time for more Digimon stuff. Take care.